Trudeau's legacy will be that of the idiot king. There is no question about that. Absolute lack of executional skills, inability to find cabinet members in a parliamentary system, particularly when he had a majority mandate that could fulfill these roles. Putting a journalist in finance, complete disaster. It's never been done before. Why you would ever do that is beyond me, but Canadians saw it, and I'll turn this country around. The same kind of message that was occurring with Trump at the time, and it was a populist message because Canada is the richest country on earth run by idiots, and I hate to say that as a Canadian because I have a passport. During the Trudeau mandate, he has lost 41% of the value of the country. People are tired of him by every measure. That was just one drop in the bucket. To say, I mean, it's gone beyond pissed off. They just want an election, and they will wipe him right off the face of the political landscape in Canada.
Kevin O'Leary doesn't mince words when it comes to his critique of Justin Trudeau's leadership. For nearly a decade, Trudeau has held a reputable office in Canada, but according to O'Leary, the results speak for themselves. They're far from impressive, and he argues that Trudeau was never suited for the role in the first place. As we move forward, I'd like to ask you a quick favor to subscribe and like this video. It takes just a second and helps us so much. At the center of O'Leary's message is a bold statement. Trudeau has no future in politics. He believes that Trudeau's time is up, not just because of his failures, but because the Canadian public has grown increasingly tired of his leadership. O'Leary warns that Trudeau's influence will soon be a thing of the past, and the Liberal Party could be facing a very different future as it deals with the fallout of years of mismanagement and lost opportunities.
That allowed the government to freeze personal and business bank accounts over this trucker strike that happened in 2022. As they're upset about the COVID lockdowns, which we know now basically didn't work. And, a Canadian judge this week ruled that the use of that act was unreasonable and infringed on constitutional rights. Is that where Trudeau lost public opinion, do you think?
No. The metrics of the country that affect every individual Canadian regarding their politics are things like GDP per capita, debt per capita, foreign outflows of capital per capita, the Canadian dollar versus other international currencies. During the Trudeau mandate, he has lost 41% of the value of the country. People are tired of him by every measure. That was just one drop in the bucket.
Trudeau's tenure as Prime Minister has been defined by what many see as a series of economic missteps, which have left Canada's economy in a much weaker position than it was at the beginning of his time in office. One of these indicators is the dramatic 41% devaluation of the Canadian dollar during his leadership, which has had real-world consequences for Canadians, from increasing the cost of imports to weakening the purchasing power of Canadian families. Trudeau's economic policies, like raising capital gains taxes too high, made it more difficult for businesses to thrive and compete on a global stage, especially with the United States, Canada's most significant trading partner. With the U.S. economy consistently offering lower taxes and a more favorable environment for investment, many businesses and entrepreneurs looked south of the border for better opportunities, further weakening Canada's economic foundation. Even more troubling is Trudeau's inability to consider the balance between industrial growth and environmental responsibility. While environmental sustainability is important, policies that fail to recognize the economic necessity of a strong industrial base can create devastating consequences. Trudeau's economic decisions lacked the foresight to understand how the two elements of industry and environment needed to work hand in hand to support both job creation and global competitiveness. He seemed more focused on appeasing certain political factions than on creating policies that would ensure long-term prosperity for all Canadians. O'Leary points out the difference between Trudeau's leadership and the possibilities that might have existed if Canada had pursued stronger economic ties with the U.S. His suggestion of a potential U.S.-Canada economic union is one of the bold ideas that reflects what could have been achieved if Trudeau had been able to move beyond outdated political ideologies and embrace a future of shared prosperity.
So, Canada, no one actually believes Canada would become a state of the United States. We have the USMCA. What are you talking about here, an economic union?
No, they don't want to give up their sovereignty, but they really find an economic union more attractive by the minute as the world changes, obviously. Strength through economy, through economic strength, is very, very powerful. And so the low-hanging fruit would be a common currency. That means you'd be merging some of the functionality of the Bank of Canada with the Fed. Maybe you give a couple of seats on the Fed to Canadian bankers. But, there's a way to work that out because all of the trade, goods and services, particularly commodities like energy, are denominated in USD around the world anyways. And so we would be signaling to the world that we are a very powerful combination of economies and basically don't mess with us.
Trade commodities like energy already being conducted on a global scale. The idea of merging Canada's economic power with the US in a way that maximized both countries' strengths was a golden opportunity that Trudeau missed. When Kevin O'Leary speaks about Justin Trudeau, one of the most glaring issues he points to is the shadow of nepotism that has loomed over the Prime Minister's career. O'Leary compares Justin Trudeau with his father, Pierre Trudeau, a man who, for all his controversial policies, led with a level of decisiveness and focus on economic growth that Justin has failed to replicate.
This morning, I know people want to hear more about the Canada Student Service Grant Program in particular. I know there are many questions and problems with the way this program is run about, and I know people have concerns about it. I get that. I made a mistake in not recusing myself immediately from the discussions, given our family's history, and I'm sincerely sorry.
Pierre Trudeau wasn't just a figurehead. He understood the need for job creation and the importance of maintaining a robust economy, even when his policies faced criticism. O'Leary is clear in his assessment. Trudeau was never truly qualified for the role of Prime Minister and instead relied on the Trudeau legacy to pave his way to the top. The appointment of Chrystia Freeland as Finance Minister is another example of Trudeau's failure to place capable, qualified individuals in critical roles. O'Leary is particularly harsh in his critique of Freeland, especially when it comes to her management of Canada's finances. According to him, her handling of the finance file was a disaster because of her inability to balance fiscal policies that would keep Canada competitive on the global stage. Instead of strengthening the nation's economic standing, Freeland's policies only worsened the problem, particularly in the areas of taxation and capital management. For O'Leary, these failures are symptomatic of a larger issue within Trudeau's leadership: a lack of competence and an over-reliance on political connections. The public's growing discontent with Trudeau's leadership is evident in the polling numbers, which suggest that the Liberals could face a devastating defeat. The party, once a dominant force in Canadian politics, now faces the possibility of losing its status as the official opposition. The prospect of Mark Carney, the former governor of the Bank of Canada, stepping into that role is a key point of speculation. However, O'Leary's stance on Carney is clear. He believes Carney could face major opposition due to his alignment with policies that have already been widely rejected by the Canadian public, particularly the ongoing proposals for carbon taxes. Carney, though highly qualified in some respects, would likely find it difficult to present himself as a true alternative to the Trudeau-era policies that have alienated so many Canadians. As Canada looks to its future, Kevin O'Leary envisions a dramatic shift in Canadian politics, one that sees the rise of a conservative resurgence, or what he calls a red wave, sweeping across the nation. His belief in this shift stems from the growing discontent with the Trudeau government, and O'Leary predicts that Canadians are ready for a change. The idea of a conservative-led government, particularly under the leadership of Pierre Poilievre, is gaining momentum. O'Leary, who has been vocal in his support for Poilievre, believes the conservative leader is well-equipped to lead the country through its current challenges. O'Leary's commitment to influencing Canada's political future goes beyond just supporting a new conservative government. He has pledged to work tirelessly to ensure that the leadership of the country moves away from the failed policies of Trudeau. The legacy of Trudeau is not something that O'Leary is willing to let stand unchecked, and he remains determined to help guide Canada toward a brighter, more economically stable future. But what about you? What do you think about the future of Canada under Trudeau's leadership? Do you agree with O'Leary's assessment, or do you see a different path forward for the country? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.